Get it. Cloud storage. You're full. Oh, now that it's started, I have nothing to say. I just want to pipe up and button my lips. How's it going, Lyndon?
Good.
It's been a while. It's been like a long time. Well, kind of. It's kind of been a long time since we recorded.
We did have an unfortunate recording.
Should we talk? I guess we should talk about that.
Well, here we are.
Here we are. We might as well. We're sitting across from each other.
We recorded an episode not
shorts.
too long ago. And
when was that? Was like in June. That was kind of in the midst of when the world
early
was
June, I think.
Really, yeah, it was like June 6th. It was whenever the George Floyd murder had happened, and then the worldwide outrage around that,
the rioting, the lootings,
the response from Black Lives Matter and everything, and the statues were getting toppled.
J.K. Rowling had to pop her head in.
J.K. Rowling hates trans people or something, and then we like popped our little heads in, and we're like,
let's try and comment on all this. Have we researched any of this? And we're like, no, I've read a few things.
Nothing.
I'm on Twitter.
Not at all.
So
and
we'll break this down.
Yeah, and like it's so funny because I feel like we tried to walk this line between serious and, I don't know, trying to be funny,
lighthearted, jovial.
But
we're like making light of everything, but then we're being like, but no.
But yeah, we kept having to like walk back our like jokes. I told our mutual friend of the podcast, Noelle Dilling, who's on a mission right now.
Sister
Dilling. She's I guess they're allowed to like talk to people on Facebook on their P-Day or something. Anyway, so I was telling her about this episode, and she was like, I got to hear this episode. I was like, it's gone. Yeah. It's deleted.
I know. I think I told someone, too. I was like,
also, you're on a mission, and you can't. It's not right. It's not appropriate for you.
I think missionaries should be listening to mission
I think
stories.
they should, too.
I think it should be on the approved library.
For a reason I will disclose later, I saw a pair of elders yesterday, and they were like, I was talking to them about how we could also use this to segue into, like, the real reason we got together last time, the episode that got deleted, to talk was because missionaries are now allowed to do basically whatever they want.
Yeah, and wear whatever they want.
And
half that episode was me ranting about no tie blue shirts.
It was like, honestly, it was 5 minutes. It was like, man, I wish this like lasted a little longer because now we got a lot of time to fill.
I know. It's like my dad gives me a hard time for wearing a blue shirt to church. And missionaries wear them now?
Yeah.
I'm just like,
that was like kind of the whole thrust of that small conversation. They're like, okay, back to statues getting toppled. Is it right? We're like arguing the morality of the riots and the looting. Maybe this episode will stay away from normative statements about these things. Hey, is normative means like it's like a should statement, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I got into an argument with a woman a while ago about this, and I know that I was right, and she refused to believe that. But normative is a should statement. Okay, moving on.
Don't you hate when women do that?
Always arguing about nomenclature. So anyway, that's kind of the story of our episode that never got released, and so it felt like we had recorded because we did. There was just nothing to show for it.
Yeah, and someone was like, "Okay," and I was like, "It got deleted," and they're like, "It's not deleted. You just didn't release it." I was like, "Oh, it's gone." I was like, "That file was cleared."
Yeah, like there can't be a chance of people hearing this. And not that it was like particularly, maybe it was a little inflammatory. I
was ready to pull the trigger.
You were ready. You know what? Listening back to these, so another thing that we maybe can touch upon is I've been going back through the feed. I've been I know that like over the years, it's been years since we've been doing this, Lyndon.
Plural.
It's been like, again, I think this is our third year. Especially in the beginning, I think we were a little loosey-goosey with some things, some topics.
We've been loosey-goosey from day one.
Including how you loosed a goose I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, well, you said you've been cleansing the feed.
Yeah, I've been cleansing the feed of all the sort of questionable material and the things said. I've said some words I probably shouldn't have said on the internet. Anyway, that's all gone now. Try to find it. You can't.
I know, because brings up my story where I'm out walking with the wife, and I'm telling this story about like a pistol crossbow and how I had one on the mission. And I'm like, yeah, I killed a goose on my mission with a pistol crossbow. And Jasmine's like, what? I can't believe that. I'm so disappointed in you. And I was like, why are you acting like you've never heard this before? I was like, I told this story on the podcast. I was like, you don't even listen to the podcast. She doesn't remember any of my mission stories. But then I was like, wait, that sounds like something that would have been deleted.
That sounds like I'm recalling a conversation with my own father where he...
No, that was a different episode.
Wait, was it?
Yeah,
oh, it was.
the
Yeah,
goose.
you're right. Yeah.
The goose in the no episode. Those are two different things.
Oh, my goodness.
So
You're
I feel
right.
like, I thought I was like, now they've all been deleted.
Now that's a story.
And so now I'm just like, sure, we've cleansed the feed of the dirt, but I'm here to justify my dirt.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there explaining to Jasmine, like, I was the Lord's servant.
Is the goose one gone?
That's what I'm asking. You said it's gone.
I think it is gone. I think it was all the...
Because I remember...
should we get rid of that? I mean, you just said it.
Well, this is the thing. So
But
true and faithful
justify
listeners,
it, yeah.
if you know about the goose, tell us about it so that we can out Jasmine for actually not listening to the podcast.
I think it was a part of that episode that, for legal reasons, had to be deleted.
Point is,
Our lawyers advised us to...
our legal counsel, I was
Yeah.
about to say his name, but then he gets upset. He gets upset when we publicly say he's our legal counsel
we
because that would
publicly
get him in
shout
trouble.
from the rooftops that we've paid him to be our legal counsel.
We've had him on retainer for years.
Before he was even thinking about being a lawyer, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, he's like, don't say I'm your legal counsel when I'm not.
Okay, wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
Touch
Thanks
the
for the
nose.
legal advice.
Yeah, lawyer.
He knows who he is.
He gets it. So...
But yeah, so it's like, I killed this goose.
You killed a goose? It's fine.
It.
Relax.
I was the Lord's servant. We were on the Lord's errand.
Yeah.
And this goose attacked us.
He was in the way.
And the Spirit constrained me to slay this goose.
Yeah, just like Nephi got constrained to
Yeah.
kill a man.
So I'm like, okay, so Nephi chops off Laban's head. And everyone's like, yeah,
Oh,
of
it's
course, that's
fine.
fine. That makes sense.
you can kill.
I'm trying to get to an investigator's house.
Yeah.
And this friggin' goose attacks me. Yeah, I'm going to whip out my pistol crossbow that I keep in the truck.
On my belt. On my slung across
And I'm
my back.
going to kill this goose.
I'm going to kill whatever stands in my way.
And it wasn't even like a migratory waterfowl. It was a feral, like the kind of geese you find on a farm.
So, and that's your legal that's your loophole.
Yeah. Where they're like, did you poach a goose? No.
You didn't
This
poach
was
a
like
goose.
this is like some farm goose that like escaped and was roaming this neighborhood in the mountains of Arizona, attacking missionaries.
Would never do anything illegal.
Right.
And as a hunter, you keep up on these things. Okay, so you
Yeah.
killed a goose.
So everyone
it's
who's
fine.
everyone who's heard this story has been like, I'm so disappointed you killed a goose as a missionary. And I was like, I know what the Spirit told me to do.
That's not the only
I
thing
have-
you'd be disappointed in me for.
So I'm like, I have zero regrets. That goose had it coming. And guess what? That investigator that it was trying to prevent us from getting to her house,
Yeah.
she's baptized.
Oh my gosh.
Only because I killed that goose.
You know what? You're right. I was going to say if she didn't get baptized, you probably didn't need to kill the goose. And I'll admit, you probably didn't need to kill the goose to begin with. I mean, like, was it fault? Like, was it?
Well,
It's a
here's-
goose, right? Like,
on
you
a
can just...
on a previous appointment, my
Just walk
companion-
around it,
like,
really.
well, you couldn't walk around it. It would like
How big was this goose?
you can bring up,
It's a
whatever
man-sized goose.
those like domestic.
You could
the
say it
kinda-
was even a man.
those kind of geese you find on farms. They're big. They're the size of a Canada
Okay.
goose.
Okay.
They're
Yeah,
a
and they
menace.
are mean.
And they are mean.
They're mean.
My companion would throw rocks at it.
You got to speak into that mic. Mic awareness.
Thank you. I was looking outside at the scary
Yeah.
construction sounds.
Yeah.
My companion threw rocks at it at one point to scare it away, which was probably worse. Like, he thumped him in the little goose chest with a rock really hard. I was like,
Almost caved his little goose chest in.
yeah, I was like, that's cruel. What I did was kind.
You did the kind thing.
Yeah.
For sure. Anyone could argue that. And they may have to in court.
So, like, maybe you've
Goose
cleansed the in goose court. Maybe you've cleansed the feed of that story, but I stand by that story.
It's, you know what? I don't know. I think it is gone. I think you told the one involving another person and the anyway, the extermination of a different
That one was gone.
pest. That's gone.
There's some the real true and faithful are the people that heard that episode
and have that downloaded on their phones
and
still.
refuse to delete it.
And please delete that episode. Please, oh please. And if you have it, don't you dare post it anywhere. Or
We will find you
force to take
and
legal
we will
action.
DMCA you.
What's that?
I don't know.
Shooting an arrow.
Something about licensed
Shooting
material.
an arrow. Oh, should we talk? We got to talk about Dr. Disrespect too.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that, like, I don't know why this isn't working. My thing doesn't work anymore.
It looks like pen and paper still rule.
I guess the Apple Pencil is not mightier than the average pen, which is ultimately mightier than the sword. We got there. We ultimately got there. Dr. Disrespect. Why does this not work? This is bothering me. Dr. Disrespect is a Twitch streamer that we mentioned once on the show.
My hero. I'm currently wearing black and red.
Yeah, and I mean, you might not want to say he's your hero, just, you know.
I think after all my research, it is safe to say he's my hero.
Okay. My research says otherwise, but okay.
What does your research say?
All right, we can just talk about it now.
Well, here we are. You're saying he's a creepo, and I'm saying he's fine.
I'm saying there's possibility there's a criminal investigation happening. And
No, because if there was a criminal investigation, that's public record.
Well,
Like,
they don't.
there'd
If
be
there's a charge, yeah,
or
active investigations,
or like
don't.
warrants. If the FBI had to like raid him, there'd be warrants.
There'd be some
warrants.
public record warrant.
Yeah.
Are you sure of that?
Yeah. I watched a 30-minute YouTube lawyer video.
So there's I've like I said, I've been going and cleansing the feed, and I've been listening to episodes, and there's a common phrase that you've repeated many times, which is "say it confidently and it's true." That's a Lyndon trademark. We should put it on a T-shirt.
What
Is
do I
this
say?
just a thing you're saying confidently, and I think it's true because I'm very persuadable?
Wait, what's my trademark? Something I say?
You say, this is what you've said many, many times. I'll say something like, I'll make a claim such as like Justin Trudeau vacations in the Maldives or the Valdez Exxon thing. That's a deep cut, episode 1. And then you'll say, if you say it confidently, it's true.
I do say that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my trademark.
So I'm just wondering, is this one of those times?
Well, I'm confident that this lawyer, whose video I watched for 30 minutes.
It better be right.
Yeah.
I spent 30 minutes on it.
Yeah. And the other evidence was as soon as he got, perma-banned from Twitch, his sponsors all dropped him. But then like the next day, his sponsors all just like picked up their campaigns with him again. So I think their immediate reaction was like, oh boy, he did something bad, and they dropped him. But then I think they might have talked to, he's got his own agency and lawyers. And they're just like, oh no, we're just having like a contract dispute with Twitch. So they're like, okay, yeah, no, that's fine. So there'd have to be, especially by now, there'd have to be some record of a criminal charge or warrants. Or
we should give people more context for this. I imagine many people have no idea who this person is. There's a thing called Twitch. It's a streaming service where people play video games. And as big nerds, Lyndon and I both.
Well, sometimes they just talk.
Sometimes they talk. Sometimes they do. Anyway, the big thing is that it's a platform where people mostly seem to stream themselves playing video games. And one of the big stars of this scene was this guy whose handle was Dr. Disrespect. And he was like this character, and he was fun and inspiring and great.
Yeah, and he had like a $10 million contract.
Yeah, Mountain Dew. Yeah, with Twitch. And
because most people are basically streaming for free.
Yeah.
And, even if they do get subscribers or whatever, like they still like have to give a cut to Twitch.
Right.
But Dr. Disrespect was at the point where Twitch is paying him to be on their platform.
Just because he's such a draw, he was as close to he's like the Ronaldo of esports, the Michael Jordan, if you will.
Well, and if you want to give even more context, you got to remember the other top streamers.
Yeah.
Shroud and Ninja.
Yes, yeah.
They got signed onto Microsoft's streaming platform, Mixer.
Yeah.
And so that's why Twitch is like, oh my, because before that, Twitch was like, we're not paying people to use us. We're the only gig in town.
Yeah.
You're lucky to stream on our platform.
Yeah.
Said Jeff Bezos.
Bezos.
So Twitch is owned by Amazon, by the way.
Right.
But then Mixer,
the Microsoft company,
that was paying
competitor.
They folded up 3 weeks ago.
Like a cheap lawn chair.
They're like, this isn't working out. It's not making us really any money, even though they stole all the top streamers. So they just folded it up. They sold the company to Facebook.
Yeah.
And then everyone else's contract was up in the air. So they're like, what's Ninja going to do? What's Shroud going to do?
Yeah, well, they had the option to go to the Facebook, Shroud, and Ninja, two other big streamers. They had the option to go to this new Mixer Facebook thing.
And they just opted right out of it.
They opted out. So basically they got paid their full contract amount for a year.
2 months. Shroud was in Mixer for 2 months.
That's so wild. That's like the dream come true right there. Do we know where they're going to land yet? Or is that still up in the air?
Ninja went to YouTube Gaming.
Fair.
So he's just streaming on YouTube.
Cool.
I haven't heard about Shroud. Everyone assumed he'd go back to Twitch.
I'm thinking Twitch.
Which was another theory, is because what Twitch said about Dr. Disrespect for his permanent ban was what do they call it? Terms of service.
Yeah.
And their other community guidelines. So the only thing they ever said is that he broke some sort of form of the terms of service. And their community guidelines. Their community guidelines could be anything.
Right.
If it's if you say something offensive, you've breached their community guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've breached the community guidelines, you've breached their terms of service. Or if anyone brought up some sort of civil suit against Dr. Disrespect, that would be against the terms of service, which then goes into Twitch arbitration, which is why there's been nothing from Twitch and nothing from Dr. Disrespect. Because then that's non-disclosure. They're just in arbitration about the contract. One theory being that Twitch is let's get rid of Dr. Disrespect and use that money to sign Shroud.
Yeah.
There's one theory.
Yeah, it's a sneaky way of getting out of their contract with Dr. Disrespect now that their main competition is basically gone. Because the reason why they paid Dr. Disrespect so much money was because they wanted to keep him from going to this competition. And now that the competition is basically gone, it's why are we paying all this money to stick with us? We're kind of the only game in town besides YouTube, but it's nowhere near the size and scope of Twitch. So it's why don't we use these sort of, they did the corporate math and they determined that this is the fastest or the least expensive way to keep him or to get rid of him and
I could see
keep the cash.
They want to dump the contract, but then he's permanently banned from Twitch, so now he's got to go to another platform. So that's what's confusing
that
about
doesn't make sense.
And there was also the timing, because it was that same week is when they permanently banned a whole bunch of people that had sexual assault allegations.
Right.
So they were just
But he wasn't exactly a part of that.
Well, no one knows, because
it's hard to
Twitch
say.
Doesn't have to say.
We hope not.
All they have to say is they were banned for terms of service, breaching terms of service. It's just for those other people where they specifically know that sexual assault allegations came up against them, and suddenly they're permanently banned for terms of service. So everyone's okay, yeah. So,
well.
And also, yes, the theory, if he did something criminal, that would also be a breach of the terms of service.
Something kind of heinously criminal is the idea.
Yeah.
child pornography sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
Tom Hanks.
this is not going how I thought it would. We'll do all the sort of like nice stuff at the end, I guess. We'll just cover the hard topics. We're literally going in reverse.
It's 2020. Things have not gone so well this year.
The original sort of premise for the episode, I was thinking maybe we could do like the 20 most controversial things of 2020.
The 20 worst things that have happened in the first half of 2020.
And
Australian bushfires, number 1.
Yeah, the bushfires, the Bush family.
World War III almost started with Iran.
Yeah, remember when that was our biggest concern?
We're like, oh no, is Iran going to get upset and nuke us? And then COVID came in, and apparently they wiped out the whole country.
They're like, yeah, don't worry about it. COVID's like, here, hold my beer.
China's like, we don't want World War III, and they released COVID onto Iran.
Yeah.
And that's the truth, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what you just said. I was kind of looking at my phone, so if the thing you just said isn't on the level, that's my excuse for agreeing with it, just sort of blindly.
You're going to have to cleanse this feed.
We'll cleanse this episode. Shoot.
Okay, should we take a break to lighten it up? Just tease people with Tom Hanks?
Yeah, maybe we should. Maybe we won't get too far into it because let me tell you, it is a rabbit hole. And I don't really want to get all into it, but maybe we'll give you the light
I remember when you
version.
first brought it up, and I was just like, here's one of Troy's conspiracies, where I'm proud of you for having a hobby.
Thanks.
But I'm like, I can't get tied up into this.
Tied up into it.
You just bring it up. What you just said, it's a rabbit hole.
It is a rabbit hole. And I am being watched by NSA and CIA. I think.
CSIS.
There's been some really sus looking pigeons on my balcony lately, and I'm thinking they're, the fake kind.
Birds aren't real.
Because we all know birds are not real. Space is fake. The Earth is flat. Just kidding on all those fronts, except for the fact that Tom Cruise, excuse me, I would never defame the name of Ethan Hunt himself, Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise hasn't done anything questionable.
Tom Cruise is fine in my book.
He jumped up on Oprah's couch one time. That was a little strange. Other than that, I think he's kept his nose clean.
He's keeping his nose clean. He makes some damn good films. You know who doesn't, or who he used to, not anymore? Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Woody himself. Dude, okay, so the idea here is that Tom Hanks is wrapped up with Epstein, who is a known child sex trafficker. There was, the manifests of who has ridden on Epstein's plane. We know that, and guess who's on the list?
Tommy Boy.
Tom Hanks. Here's the other thing.
I always knew. He always gave me the heebie-jeebs.
Well, the thing is, he made the series Big Love, which is sort of this knock on Mormon people and polygamy, and I think they even show this depiction of temple worship in that show. So it's like not kind of a.
He's had a bit of an anti-Mormon thing going on.
Hates Mormons.
That's when I was like, get him out of here.
Honestly,
that's when I canceled him.
For a long time, I was like, screw you, Tom Hanks. You hate Mormons. And it's
I think the prophet at the time was just like, hey, any media is good media.
Yeah, right. So
Big Love had people talking, hey, this is what happened when I was on my mission. And guess what? Any of the people that approached me and wanted to talk to me about Big Love, they were not interested in the gospel.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
all media is good media. Yeah. So
all media is media.
That is definitely always true. So Tom Hanks is the thing about it though. The way that I got sort of into this, I think honestly, I don't remember the first time I heard this. I wonder if the CIA sort of beamed this into my brain so that maybe I just go look for it. I don't know.
Are you on some what do they call it?
Medications? Yes. MK Ultra? Yes.
You're like, that's me.
MK Ultra is the code on the back of my driver's license. I always wondered what that meant. Just kidding. So I saw Chris D'Elia, comedian.
Right.
He also got Me Too'd recently, or they tried. I don't know where that's at actually, but some people came out, and so I was he was talking to underage girls or something, and then so this came out, and I was listening to other comedians' responses to it, and there's this one guy, Sam Tripoli, he's a conspiracy guy, and he's just like, listen, he's a friend. If he did what he did, he's got to pay for it. He's got to pay that price. But I don't think that what he's involved in is as serious as the sort of satanic, pedophilic sex cult that Hollywood is rotten to the core with. And I was like, huh?
You're like, that's quite the claim.
Sex cult, pedophilia, Hollywood rotten to the core. I mean, I always knew. I mean, Weinstein obviously is a POC, but piece of crap. But I guess I could just say POS. Don't have to say the
point of sale.
Point of sale, yeah, no POC, not AOC. So I heard this, and I was like, and I don't remember what the Tom Hanks connection was, but I started looking into it, and there's 3 big things that sort of connect. Actually, there's 4 big things now, and the 4th thing is kind of a recent thing, and it's kind of a nail in the coffin, and let me tell you what they are. The first thing is Tom Hanks' Instagram. Now, his Instagram,
by the way, is already super weird.
And tell us why.
He just like takes pictures of things that are on the ground.
What are the things that are on the ground that he takes pictures of?
Lost items?
It's lost items. It's a lot of shoes. It's a lot of babies' shoes, and it's a lot of women's shoes. So it'll be like one high heel on the ground, just on its own. And he'll take a picture of it and sort of have a quippy little, like, oh, I hope they've got where they were going. Ha, ha, ha. Meanwhile, what do you think of when you see one woman's shoe just strewn haphazardly on the ground?
She got napped.
She got kidnapped, or
she got drugged
worse.
into a van.
Yeah.
And Tom Hanks was there to take a picture of it.
It's just like, it really alludes to this kind of horrible thing, and he's just like, ha, 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 I can do no wrong. You know,
I'm the voice of Woody.
Yeah. There's a snake in my boot. This woman was taken. So it's just like this weird, like, why would you do that sort of a thing? Like, the rest of humanity is like, oh, kind of creeped out by this. Meanwhile,
it's artistic.
Meanwhile, he just can't stop taking pictures of these things. Now, admittedly, this alone is not really enough to, like, really nab him for anything.
It's just weird.
It is weird. There's a lot of it to the point where it's like, we need to be like, it's enough to like draw attention and be like, what are you doing? Enough so that like he actually went on Conan O'Brien and I think another talk show where like they asked him about it, like, what are you doing? And he like has his little cutesy response to it. Now there is one of the photos that has you can go on his Instagram right now.
He didn't delete it.
He did not delete it. It's a picture of a kid's shoe. And beside it, in chalk on the ground, is written 6 letters, SRC, and underneath that, USA. And I watched this guy go sort of do a deep dive into, like, what is SRC USA, and especially in the context of all these sort of, like, this actor named Isaac Cappy accused Hanks of being a child pedophile and, like, buying this young girl and everything. And then, lo and behold, that guy, Isaac Cappy, killed himself shortly after that.
Like Epstein.
Just like Epstein. So, I mean, admittedly, the kind of person who would make such, if they're false accusations, the type of person who would make an accusation like that may also be the kind of person who's mentally unwell and might kill themselves. I don't know. Probably not in like a good spot mentally. But also, did Jeffrey Epstein kill himself? Probably not.
Probably not.
And if there's any connection at all, it's like, okay, now it's starting to look a little more suspicious. But so
the code. The
code is SRC USA. If you type that code into Yandex, which is the Russian version, it's like their Google. It's like their search engine. Yandex.
Also, I would say probably don't do this.
Oh, yeah. Do not do this, by the way. Apparently what comes up is these sort of like vaguely, not outright like child sexy, it's just like these weird pictures of sexualized children, all come up. It's really horrific. Like, I watched this guy sort of go into it on YouTube, and I kind of wish I had. And it was kind of like this disgusting video, but it was like holy crap! Like, what is that code doing on Tom Hanks's Instagram post? Like, what is that doing there? It was so like mind blowing.
So that's like some secret pedophile code.
Yeah, it's like this way. I think that pedophiles use the sort of, because usually it's like the dark web is sort of their realm, right? There's a lot of crazy stuff on the dark web. The internet that we all use is like the surface web or whatever. It's like you're never really gonna come across this stuff. Like, but there's this code apparently it's like the pedophile's way of sort of using the surface internet to access sort of vaguely these kind of pictures, this kind of rotten stuff. So anyway, this code that the pedophiles use is on Tom Hanks's photo.
Could have been an accident.
It could have been, except that he was accused by this Isaac Cappy. This other person accused him of, it was just this woman who came out and said that that Tom Hanks purchased her and then raped her. But
and what's the next thing?
So this is okay. Get this. There's two more things.
Okay, I thought we already had three. Two more things.
So
he's only half incriminated.
Well, there's a different thing too. I was just kind of like, I mean, the Yandex thing is pretty wild. But the thing that really got me curious is go look at Tom Hanks's Instagram account and look at the comments on any number of any one of his pictures. The comments are in the tens of thousands. It's like 13, 20,000 comments, to the point where one day you could like literally. So I like started getting into this, and I like look at his comments, and it's all like pedophile, Pizzagate, which is another. It's like sort of this pedophile conspiracy around a pizza shop, sort of a thing. All these pizza emojis, all these like, you're sick, you're disgusting, how are you not in jail? We know what you did, sort of thing. In the tens of thousands on all of his pictures. So I'm like, one day I'm like looking at this.
Could all be Russian bots?
But also, it could be, hypothetically. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, holy smokes. Either it's Russian bots or it's a combination of Russian bots, and like people are sort of like picking up on this, and they're like, oh geez, like I looked at some of the profiles of these people. They looked real enough. I mean, sort of like actual people were doing this.
Did you drop a little pizza emoji onto it as well?
I never comment on anything. I'm just a lurker on social media.
For the best.
For the most part, unless I make a sketch or something. Or a podcast. But so that just was alarming to me. It's like, oh my gosh, like it's like the world is like sort of picking up on this thing, and it felt like I was sort of right at the crest of this wave. The next day I check this, his comments are disabled. Now he's not letting anybody comment anything on any of his pictures, but the record is still there of people who have already commented. Here's the final nail in the coffin. He just recently, there's two articles that friend of the podcast, Joel, I forget his last name right now. Joel Mount Indefatigable Costello sent me, which was about Tom Hanks has now gone to Greece for a quote-unquote summer vacation, and he's been given honorary citizenship for the country of Greece. And guess what? Greece does not have an extradition rule with the United States.
Well.
How wild is that? Goes to Greece, gets citizenship, and now he gets to just... the prediction is Tom Hanks is not returning to the United States anytime soon. And if he does, it is not while Ghislaine Maxwell is still alive. And Ghislaine Maxwell is...
Is that how you pronounce it?
I believe so. Ghislaine. I think the proper pronunciation is Ghislaine. But Ghislaine Maxwell is Epstein's girlfriend, who has been... she's been arrested. She's been denied bail. For good reason, because she's the absolute definition of a flight risk. And we can only assume that she has been singing like a canary and naming names. And we can only guess that that Tom Hanks is probably one of those names. It's wild, dude. It's wild.
Okay, yeah. I'm just reading about the latest, the Wayfair scheme.
Yeah.
That Tom Hanks might be tied into that. Is this something you're familiar with?
Yes. Gonna take a real quick break for 1 second here. And we're back. So, Wayfair, yeah. There's something going. Dude, this year is crazy. Tell us about Wayfair, and then I want to spill some thoughts about this whole thing.
So, Wayfair just got caught up in child trafficking schemes, because Wayfair is a site you can kind of post. I don't know.
What is it? It's a website
because they sell furniture.
Yeah,
but like anyone can kind of go on and be like, yeah, I want to sell my furniture on your website, and they're like, okay. And so apparently there'd be like industrial shelves for like $15,000.
Yeah,
and people are like, wait a second, and like the SKUs, the SKUs would like
the sort of the tracking number associated with
to
this
identify
piece
the
of furniture
product were not for shelves. And so they're like, oh my gosh, were people using Wayfair to like buy and sell people?
Well, and the real connection that people found here was that a child would go missing, and then because someone posted this to Twitter, I think. They said essentially that a child would go missing, and let's say their name was like Jennifer. And then months or sometime shortly thereafter, a cabinet would go on sale, and it would be called the Jennifer cabinet, and it would be about $6,000 to $12,000, just like a kind of a ridiculous amount of money to pay for a cabinet.
Yeah,
and it would be the name of this like child or this person that has gone missing, and that happened. At least like 25 instances of a missing child's name was the name of a cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I could see, there might be more than that, but there was just like this list of like 25 like missing people, and their name was a cabinet that was for sale for an absurd amount of money on this Wayfair site. Wayfair?
Yeah.
Wayfair. So
and I just know the latest connection was that, SRC code that was on Tom Hanks's Instagram has been in the SKUs.
Whoa. Hold on. The SRC USA was in one of the SKUs?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I thought you knew all about that.
I didn't know that. This is new.
That's the latest connection.
That's
where they're trying to tie Tom Hanks into this Wayfair scam. Wayfair, of course, has been like, no, we're not involved with child trafficking.
I could believe that.
I think people have been using their platform for it.
I could believe maybe that the. I mean, now they got to do something about it, and it's weird that they haven't been maybe keeping better tabs on this sort of thing. But it is possible that they're sort of ignorant third parties and nefarious people have been using it for those purposes. Here's the thing, though. This is what I was going to say, is that this whole thing, I think that this year, and we might be getting, I don't know anything, and this is all hypothetical. This is all conspiracy theory nonsense, and this could all just be, just whatever it is. I'm a goof. I'm a jokester. But
if not,
but we have, I think this Epstein situation, and if you're not familiar, basically, Jeffrey Epstein, billionaire and person who is responsible for the trafficking of underage women, mostly. I don't know if he was involved in any male. I think it was mostly women. And close associate with many, many movie stars and members of government and royalty, just so connected with the elites of the world, was arrested, and then shortly thereafter was committed suicide in the most improbable way possible.
Allegedly.
Yeah, to the point of like he probably was killed in prison. Like they found the like bones were broken in his neck that were consistent with like someone with their arm around his neck, sort of a thing.
And you see like his cellmate or whatever, the like ex-cop, clearly a hitman.
Yeah, not a narc. He's like the guy who goes to like the high school and hold on, one little break, and we're back. Sorry about that. Epstein was the guy
was killed.
Epstein was killed, right? I think that what we've seen with this Epstein thing, and now with Ghislaine Maxwell, and now with like, it's just like everyone who's ever done anything associated with this like pedophile, like the Weinstein thing. It just like, I think we're brushing up, and especially with this Epstein thing, we're brushing up against the power elite. Their nefarious activities seems to be coming close to the widespread knowledge of like everyone. I think that's what's happening here is that the power elites, they use pedophilia, they use, all sorts of nefarious things to, I don't know, keep tabs on the innermost members of their inner circle, members of government. Because you look at the flight manifests, it's like the Clintons are on it. You've got Prince Andrew. You've got all these celebrities, Will Smith, Tom Hanks. The list is long.
Donald Trump was a known associate of Epstein. They've had a falling out in the 90s over like a property one-upsmanship, I think, sort of a thing. I bet he's thanking his lucky stars now that that's where it ended. Though he is still, he's not clean either, right? So it's like two presidents of the United States have an obvious connection to this pedophile. And here's the thing. I don't even think people are saying that like Epstein isn't even like the top dog. He's middle manager. Oh geez.
He's middle manager for like for billionaires. It's like I saw this one guy talking about. He's like put all the pictures of all the billionaires in the world on a wall. Throw a dart at it. You're gonna hit a couple murderers. To become a billionaire, you're gonna hit a couple murderers. Like to get $1 billion in your bank account, you got to do it by climbing on the backs of a lot of people, and a couple people have to die at least, to get $1 billion.
Yeah,
and that's just like hearsay and assumptions, but I don't know. What do you think? I think to me it seems like we're brushing up. It's becoming so like it's like ooh, like the veil is being parted a little bit. Pardon the association there, but we're starting to see behind the curtain and be like, what is going on in the upper echelons of society and government?
Yeah, there's been the big movement, people being like, hey, you can't be anti-human trafficking and pro-porn.
Right.
They're like, porn is human trafficking. That's been getting a lot of steam, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, no more human trafficking, and they're bringing stats like there are more slaves today than any other time in history, and people are being nabbed and put into indentured servitude and being trafficked around the world against their will.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh well, who's even doing this? And then you start to realize, and you don't want to think it, but you're like, I guess all these super wealthy people,
yeah,
the elites of the world are the people with the kind of power that can do this. But then I'm like, but why would they want to? It's like, why would Tom Hanks want to like do that But I don't know. Maybe if you're like, we're just so far separated from the billionaire class that it's like we don't even understand, you know, like Epstein's like, yeah, of course I'm going to buy an island in the Caribbean and I'm going to stock it full of underage women for all my billionaire friends and millionaire friends and, you know, Hollywood elite people so we can all go out there and have our way with human beings because human beings aren't even people to us. They're just playthings. And it's like, well, I don't want to believe that.
You know,
but like you said, suddenly it's like, is it so hard to believe that billionaires would use people as objects for their own desires because they have that sort of power? And obviously they have to keep it all hidden.
Yeah.
You don't want people revolting against them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a blackmail component to all of this. There's also an idea that Epstein is a government actor, that he's an asset of the CIA or the Mossad, which is the Israeli version of the CIA.
The intelligence community.
The intelligence community as a whole. And that's the thing, is like when you get to like the international intelligence community, it really becomes like the lines of nations really start to blur. And it's like it's not really like nation versus nation anymore. I really think that the truest war, and this is me at my most conspiratorial, and forgive me, but it really seems that like the true war that happens is between the upper crust elite and the rest of the world. And that there is sort of this, I mean, you were talking about the why. Like, why would they do this? I think A, there's a blackmail component. I think B, and this is the more sinister thing, is that there is, and this is like here, okay. I think there's kind of like there is a satanic element to it. And not even just in terms of like the way that a religious person would see that anything evil or bad is like the result of Satan, which is, you know, from the religious perspective, yeah, that's like true. Doing anything bad is from Satan in that regard. But there's even like talk that the people themselves sort of adhere to a Luciferian sort of satanic religion, almost like a cult. Like they believe in it themselves. That's a real deep cut.
That seems a little far-fetched to me.
Here's the connection. Many of the people, I bet if you did a cross-section, a Venn diagram even, of people on the Epstein manifest list, people with connections to Epstein, people who are entangled up in this, if you took that list and you compared and you said, how many of these people are Freemasons? You'd have quite the list. You've had quite the overlapping list of names. And if we look at Freemasonry in the Scottish Rite sort of path of it, there's forget the other one. There's like two kind of paths of it.
Yeah.
The Scottish Rite one has 33 degrees. And the last 3 degrees of Masonry is essentially where they reveal that the whole time, the whole thing, the God you've been worshiping is Satan. And this is coming from like the guy, I forget who the author is, but I'll have to look this up and maybe, I mean, it would be groundbreaking for us to do that kind of preparation on a show like this. But essentially the upper tiers of Masonry in the Scottish Rite are sort of a satanic Luciferian connection there. You can Google that. You can look that up. And here's the thing. Whether that's actually the truth or not, it's something they believe. It's something the Masons believe. In the Scottish Rite sect, in the upper thirds, this one guy said it. And if you look into the Freemasons at all, you got some iffy stuff.
I remember you mentioning this, and the important takeaway I got from it is that it increased your faith in the temple.
Yeah, let's turn to that. Here's the thing about that now. So here's what I thought. So it's like you got this like pedophile sex cult, and it involves all of the elite, and at the top, and riddled throughout all of this is Freemasonry, and at the top of Freemasonry is this belief and almost like worship and praise of Satan. Okay, that's the worst thing this world has to offer. Truly, I can't think of anything worse than that.
It's top tier evil.
What? Now we know that the church, the temple's ceremony in form looks a lot like the Masonic rites and rituals as well. A lot of the clothing is the same. A lot of the signs and the tokens is all quite similar. However, this used to be a point for me that was like a negative against the church, actually. I used to think this was like, it's basically just masonry. The more I look at it, though, I look at it in this way. If you take the flip side, the pentagram, for instance, and we're really getting into it now, guys, and this is not the happy-go-lucky episode you were maybe hoping for.
This is never how we plan it to go.
No, but here we are. The pentagram is a symbol that's on a lot of the temples in the early days. It's not quite as basically the pentagram was hijacked in like medieval times by a guy who was a Satan worshiper, a former member of like I think the Catholic Church, and then he left the church and sort of like espoused Satanism, and then like kind of hijacked the pentagram, like flipped it on its head or something, and then
made it that occult symbol.
Made it an occult Satanistic symbol. Same thing with the crucifix flipped upside down. So basically the idea here is that like the inverse of something good now becomes something evil. Okay. If you take Freemasonry, let's say like it seems that the whole across the world, we have this one thing that is super evil. The upper crust elite, the Freemasonry at the very top seems to be evil. And what does that look like? That looks like, all of the signs and the tokens of what? The temple. Mm-hmm. Is Freemasonry the inverse of the good? Like, what is the good? The inverse of Freemasonry, that's sort of the evilness there. And I'm not saying that all Freemasons are evil. I'm just saying that in the specific, like at the very elite, at the very top, it seems to be there's connections that it's nefarious. The flip of that is the LDS temple.
The ordinances of the temple.
The ordinances of the temple. The absolute inverse of this really evil thing is the temple. And I'm using a lot of hand symbols right now. And,
it's true.
And
anytime Troy said inverse, he has his hands and he inverts them.
Yeah.
You can't see that, but I can see it.
And I hope it's
helping drive the point for me.
Okay, good. And I hope the explanation drives the point for the listener. Anyway, so to me, that's like, it's like, okay, it's if you were to reverse engineer it, it's like, what's the thing? If you wanted to find like a true organization, maybe you would go about it this way. I mean, one might make the argument, it's like, oh, well, it's the same. It looks the same. But I don't know. I don't see it like that.
I see it like, because, there are people that are like, wait, the temple's just like masonry? Aren't Masons like evil? And here's the thing. I even, reading the Mormons and Masons Setting the Record Straight book, the conclusion of the book was it's like the same messenger or same tool, but a different message.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So to me, it's like Masonic rituals are like basically ubiquitous. It's just like, it's happening. Like people are using Masonic rituals in lots of organizations. So that's where I'm just like, it's just a tool.
Yeah.
And evil people are using it for their
their purposes,
their little pedophilia sex cults.
Yeah.
They're using Masonic rituals because it's effective.
Yeah.
And it's like on the, like you said, the flip side, the righteous side of that, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and their temple ordinances are using those same rituals because they're effective.
You know,
but it's like their purpose is
and ancient. You know,
ancient, universal, ubiquitous, effective.
It really is. Even as we talk about this, because I'm just thinking like, you know, what other organization uses a lot of these same symbols and a lot of the same imagery is, I mean, if we want to really get into this is really interesting stuff to me. University, pretty much every university. What do you graduate in at the end of university? Robes. You graduate in robes. You put on robes and vestments upon yourselves to indicate that you have attained some higher knowledge than you had before. Does that sound familiar to anyone who has been through the temple or is a Freemason sex cult member?
Or just a regular Freemason.
It's the same idea, right? I think it's I mean, the classroom setting alone is like it's this way of teaching. It's this methodology of teaching. You know who else used a lot of like this kind of stuff was like the Third Reich, Nazis, right? There's a lot of this sort of symbology there as well. And as we know, like Hitler was this occult nut, right? In the words of Indiana Jones, they talk about that somewhere. Raiders of the Lost Ark, great movie.
I was about to say the third one,
first one.
Sean Connery.
So anyway, I guess the point is, just because an organization uses familiar symbols or methods or that the appearance of it looks the same, it's, I don't know. I wouldn't, I guess, look at the message that they're saying, but I don't know. To me, the point of like the organization, the only organization that has the same, that is the flip side of the evil of the world, to me, is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And that's just like, it's like this weird thing that is like just empirically true. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you can't deny it. The thing at the apex of the evil of the world is this like this Freemasonry, this sort of corrupted version of what? The Mormon, the LDS temple ceremony. Mm-hmm. They're flips of each other, and you cannot deny that is true.
With that conclusion,
or that they are similar. You know.
With that conclusion, do you have any big announcements for our listeners?
I do have a big announcement. This is an announcement that. So I actually just yesterday I went and got my I passed my temple recommend interview. So I am now the proud holder of I mean, I don't have it in my hands because of COVID, but of a temple recommend for the first time in, gosh, last time I went to the temple was like 5 years ago.
With me, right?
With you. You were the last person that I partook of that blessed ceremony with. But, yeah, I don't know. It's my mom was very happy to hear it. She was she was so happy. So, yeah, I've, finally decided to pay tithing again. and in spite of everything, here's my thought. Just like, I think that the more I look into this, I know it's kind of a bummer. I don't know if this has been interesting. I hope it has been. It was fascinating to me. But like, the more you look into it, the more it's like it's becoming more and more obvious how much evil is in the world, And really, it's however you want to look at it. Satan's hand, his real hand or his metaphorical hand, either way. It seems to be in the world,
And the people with the most money and the most power have the greatest capacity for evil.
Yeah. And I don't know. When you look at how much, I think it's easy to be sort of indifferent to like religion when you're like, hey, my life's like, when you're just like, it's fine. I don't see anything that's going on. But when you actually sort of dig in and realize, like, man, there's so much evil in the world. Where's the light? Where's the good? And for all the church's flaws and everything, and it has a lot. It has a lot. Even in like the history of the church, there's a lot of warts and there's a lot of like stuff that could make one want to leave the church. But to me, I look at the church today and I see it as like I went to the temple. Yes, after the interview, I went up to the temple just to like visit the grounds, and I just was like saw it on the hill as I was like approaching. I was like, it really is. It's a bright light on a hill. It really is what it espouses to be. In my eyes, is like it's a bright spot. In a world of darkness and wayfarer, darkness. It's like it's when you look at the darkness, you feel the need for light, and I think you find it in the church, and I think other churches too, and
it's a a beacon.
It's a beacon.
Not, these conspiracies to do evil are hidden.
Yeah.
Not the temple.
Not the temple.
It's up there with as many bright lights on it as the city bylaws will allow.
That's right. And with that, I don't know, maybe we should move on to lighter subjects. I don't know if we have any other lighter subjects. I think we do.
Any big COVID updates? Well, I'm back in school.
You're back in school?
I'm back in the lab today.
You're back in the lab. You're not wearing glasses.
Yeah, I had to get contacts.
You look good.
Thanks.
You look like
I feel like a little beady-eyed weirdo.
Now that I'm used to the size of your actual eyes, they look great.
Thanks.
I remember like whenever you'd wear glasses and then you'd take them off, I'd be like,
put those back.
His eyes are smaller than his glasses and make them appear.
You're like, what's up with that?
But when you kind of calibrate to what your face looks like, then it's like,
that's fine.
What a handsome chap.
Yeah, when I got it's like you have to wear a mask and a face shield to be in the lab.
Yeah.
I was like, that is going to be moisture city.
Indeed.
So I had to go to the optometrist and be like, I ran out of contacts like a year ago. Can I get some more?
Yeah.
So I'm on my trial pair. That's what a lot of people are like, I got to go to the optometrist to get my free 1 week trial pair. I might even get LASIK.
You know what? Yeah.
Because it's like, if this is the way the world is now.
Yeah.
That's just like, but boy, after today's lab, my face, so moist.
Smoist.
It's just 4 hours of breathing into a mask.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I can only imagine. I think you should get LASIK. I think because here's the
I'm a
thing.
candidate. My eyes have stabilized. They're not getting worse.
Hey, that's good.
And I hate contacts.
Imagine like middle of the night, you got like the Satan worshipers are coming up over the hill with their pitchforks.
The Luciferian globalists are coming for my children.
Tom Hanks is riding on a horse.
A dark horse.
A dark horse. He's got an army of skeletons behind him, of Greek skeletons.
What am I going to be doing? Fumbling in the dark for my glasses?
For your glasses? No. You're going to be fumbling in the dark for your 22.
For my Remington 870.
Plinking those skeletons from 200 yards.
Oh, I got lots of gun updates for you.
Oh, give me some. Oh, yeah, I guess people should know. 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago?
2-3 weeks ago.
We I went and got my my non-restricted the class you have to take. I took that, and then the next day, you and I together took the restricted.
The restricted possession and acquisition
license. Yes, and so I mailed away for that, and
I haven't gotten my passport picture yet.
Ah.
I was telling my parents, my mom's like, get on it. What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I waiting for? I was like, I have no plans to own a handgun anyway.
Waiting for Tom Hanks to finish sharpening his scythe to reap the children of the world with.
I was like, owning a handgun's more trouble than it's worth. And my dad's like, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we're licensed.
We're pretty much licensed, yeah.
Yeah.
It was asking, I remember the application was like, do you have, has anyone ever told you that you were your behaviors were like wrong or something, like, in like the sort of psych eval section of the application.
Right, yeah.
And
I kind of glanced over it.
And I was just like, I'm fine. Which I am.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. I don't know.
I know.
Listen to this podcast.
I'm just hoping that Jasmine signs it. You're lucky.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was like, not applicable.
You're like, nope.
Yeah, your wife's got to sign.
Conjugal partners
That's
or
right.
spouses.
Right.
When I got my first license, that wasn't a problem.
I'm lucky I'm alone.
There's no one in my life to stop me from owning a firearm.
Hooray. Yeah, it's been interesting. What else?
Well, I got my steel targets.
Oh, yeah. How many did you get?
I got one like sawhorse stand. So I'm actually going to Home Depot after this.
Okay.
I got to pick up 3 2x4s.
Yeah.
But I got like the 12-inch gong, the 6-inch gong, and those they got the chains and the bolts so they can go over that little sawhorse that you build.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a fancy little shepherd's hook, and I still have my little 4-inch.
Yep.
That I tested out the other day with the 22.
Mm-hmm.
I told you all about that. Like, when you fire a gun after sighting it in and you hear that little ping from the steel,
Yeah.
it's like a little shot of dopamine every time. So now I'm just like, I want to set that big old 12-inch gong out at 200 yards, start blasting that with my 30-06.
Plinking away.
Plinking.
Oh, yeah.
And I even
can't wait.
I even got like a little steel pipe shotgun target, just something you shoot with a shotgun and knock it over.
Cool.
But this is my goal, and this is the problem. I've seen they call them like poppers or knockdowns.
Yeah.
Remember our guy in the course? This is a conversation that we're just having, and our listeners are going to be like, "Okay, what's?"
Yeah.
And he kept talking about like IPSC.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the acronym before? So it's
No.
like IPSC. I've always seen IPSC. It's like the people that do competition shooting and 3-gun.
Yeah.
But I've never heard anyone say IPSC before.
Yeah.
And he kept always referring to IPSC. And I immediately recognized he's talking about IPSC.
Yeah.
It's just the first time it's IPSC.
IPSC. Yeah. He was pretty cool, huh?
So there's like these like IPSC style knockdown targets that you shoot and they come down and they hit a popper and it launches a clay pigeon like 10 feet in the air. So it's like something you shoot with the one target with your shotgun, rack another round for it to like pop up a little clay pigeon that you shoot.
Yeah.
Those setups are like $400, but I'm like,
Worth
it's the only thing I want in my life right now.
That's what I want for
for
you
like
too.
the little shotgun thing. But that's, that's a long ways away.
$400? Come on, man. You're getting that CERB, aren't you?
Shh.
Is that a bleepable offense right there?
No.
Does the world? Can the world
I
not
qualify for the CERB. I took their little survey. They put a survey up.
Your little survey.
You should know about that. The CRA, they're like, hey,
Yeah.
take this survey before you apply
Yeah.
to see if you should be.
Yeah.
And the survey said I should be applying.
There you go.
So I was like, thanks, CRA, for clarifying that.
And there's no shame in it.
There's no shame.
Hey, it's a hard time. The world's a crazy place. Tom Hanks is sharpening knives on his way to Greece, where
Don't
he'll never
worry.
come back from, and we all need cash.
Yeah, I'm not making enough with my contracting business, that's for sure.
I hear that. Me neither.
So we got to go
else?
shooting soon.
Yeah, we should.
Because now that's this podcast is now a shooting podcast.
This is now called the Shooting Stories podcast.
We're going to tell stories from when we go shooting. Sorry, guys. My mic just launched away from me.
Like a rocket. Yeah. I was, this new artwork, I guess. That's like kind of a new thing.
Oh, yeah.
Did some artwork.
Troy the animator.
I'm the animator.
For people that don't know, Troy's a talented artist.
Oh, thank you kindly. I just,
I say that because he made me look handsome.
well, I was working with a handsome man. The subject was a handsome man.
It was easy to draw.
It was easy to draw. I spent all night on it. No, I didn't. I just traced it, really. I didn't really draw. I just sort of traced images. That's the secret, folks. If you want to make a cartoon look like a person, you just trace. And somehow it looks like the person.
Yeah, so check out the new artwork. It's up on Instagram.
It's on a little circle, the little bubble. I guess I could just put it. I guess I kind of want to put all the little, all the little options, the alternatives. Kind of want to put them on the feed.
They can always just be new episode.
It's true, yeah. We can just change the artwork up willy-nilly.
We can do whatever we want.
We can do as we wish, we as we please. All is permitted, nothing matters. Just kidding. That's Tom Hanks's phrase. He's got that tattooed on his butt cheeks. Is Tom Hanks my new little sort of punching bag now? I just kind of invoke his name.
Might as well.
Whenever I want to.
Let's see. Do we get emails anymore?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe we should probably check, huh? What else do we need to cover? Artwork. We cleanse the feed. Black Lives Matter.
I thought we were
not going to say anything about.
We decided.
Terry Crews got in trouble. Did you hear about that?
I hear he gets in trouble for things. What did he get in trouble this time?
Well, he went on the new. Basically, what he's saying. And here's the thing. I agree with him in this. Here's the thing. The phrase Black Lives Matter, 100%. It's true. Black lives do matter. The organization Black Lives Matter is trying to introduce many other things besides fighting against police brutality against minorities.
Mm-hmm.
Things like Marxism.
Yeah.
What's the other one? The tearing down of the patriarchy, tearing down of the nuclear family.
Like postmodern reductionism.
Ugh. Like all that stuff. You can take all that and put it in your pipe and smoke it because I'm not having any of it. But I do think that Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And so does Terry Crews. But he was saying all this. He's like, listen, we don't want to trade one tyrant for another. And he's saying all this on CNN. Don Lemon's like talking to him. He's like, Don Lemon's like, what? You really stepped in it. Like he's such a corporate shill, Don Lemon. Working for Soros. I don't know. Anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts on that. They mirror Terry Crews' thoughts, but I'm not a fan of Marxism. I'm not a fan of tearing down the nuclear family, but I am a fan of reforming police so that, people don't die.
That'd be nice.
Needlessly, when I say needlessly, I mean like in a George Floyd situation or any of the countless others who have died of police brutality without...
we live in the wonderful city of Calgary, which had more police shootings than like New York and LA combined.
I would need to look at that statistic because I feel like that can't be true.
That's why it's so amazing. It's like, Calgary police.
Isn't it like per 1 million people?
I don't know.
And there's 1 million people in Calgary or something like that?
Maybe.
So it's like our per 1 million is higher than others, but our absolute, the absolute number can't be higher than.
Okay, well, still nothing to be proud of.
True.
It's like Calgary police are like going on welfare checks where it's like, I think this person might be troubled. And the police are just like, locked and loaded.
Here we go.
Well, I'm here to deliver you some welfare, CPS style.
Bra, bra, bra. Yeah.
All right, we can't joke about that.
Obviously, yeah, I guess.
Like making jokes about police. I mean, the jokes on the police.
Jokes on the police, guys. Come on.
They're the ones that are out of hand.
Cut us some slack. Yeah, I don't know. I just think...
life is absurd. If we can't joke about the people trying to protect us killing us, then what's left to laugh at?
Honestly. We got to do a silly episode after this one. We got to do another countdown or something.
Another scroll episode.
Yeah. So, what else was there, though? I guess, we kind of touched Black Lives Matter. That's kind of like my whole thoughts about the movement and everything.
It's
topple the statues. I don't care.
I like
Get rid
Terry
of them.
Crews.
I like him too.
Yeah. Jasmine, the history graduate, has like a lot to say about the statues and monuments.
Oh, what does she think?
You put me on the spot.
Well, here's the thing. Before you say anything, I don't want to out anyone here, but say what you will. Be careful though.
basically, she was just explaining because people are like, oh, you can't take down statues. You're destroying history.
Yeah.
And she was like, no. And she's like, here's why you're not destroying history. Blah, blah, blah. Like statues of Robert E. Lee, you know, those are like monuments. Like he's in history.
Yep.
People know who he is and what he was about. A big old statue of him in Raleigh or Virginia, whatever, wherever they had it.
Everywhere. They're everywhere.
Yeah. It's like, that's not, it's like it's a form of public history, but monuments are like celebrations in a sense.
Sure. Yeah.
So they're like,
They
they're
definitely
celebrating Robert E. Lee. I don't know.
They're celebrating
It's the
separatist.
It's like I'm not a history person. If Jasmine was on the podcast, which I've invited her on many times, she'd explain it better than I can.
I think we should have her on, talk about the statues.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in this now.
Yeah. I mean, it did seem a little ignorant, like when they're tearing down statues of like that guy in Philadelphia.
Abolitionists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're just
what are you
like,
doing?
we need to bring down Abraham Lincoln.
Ugh,
And it's like,
it's these people.
that's where it gets
lost
into
their
like
minds.
postmodern deconstruction, reductionism.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, that's a statue of a white guy. So he's from the past. So he's
Yeah.
got to come down. Because they're like, Abraham Lincoln might have been the guy that abolished slavery, but he wasn't a good guy. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's just like, wow, we just can't deconstruct all of history, can we?
Give people, give historical figures some slack, for the time that they're living in. It's amazing that it's amazing that slavery was abolished at all, considering like the time that they lived in. When 50% of the nation was like, no, I think we should keep them. It's all, it's like, it's good that that some people were good enough to actually get the job done.
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking of statues coming down,
Yeah.
here's a little discussion point. Now I'm remembering
Okay.
something I wanted to bring up on this
Okay.
podcast.
all right.
We're not completely freewheeling it. Is they're just like, we got to take down all the statues of Brigham Young,
Oh, interesting.
and we got to rename the university.
Hmm.
And then I was reading in the Book of Mormon, as the wife and I do, and it was about Alma. You remember a thing? Alma was the chief judge.
Yep.
Do you remember what he did?
Well,
Quiz.
He stepped down from being the chief judge, and he passed it on to sort of a group, I think, wasn't it?
Well, another guy. So
Okay.
he was
So that he would go and do the preaching.
because he was the high priest of the church
Yeah.
and the chief judge.
See, I got it
And-
still, guys.
Yeah,
I still know the Book of Mormon.
I put Troy on the spot and he passed.
Thank you.
So he's like, I can't be the chief judge. I'm splitting myself
Yeah.
in two spots. And you know who I immediately thought of when I read about Alma's example?
Who?
Governor Young.
The governor.
Where I was like, now there's a man
True,
who
yeah.
might have been splitting himself.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair point. He was doing the work of governing a state, and also he was the ecclesiastical leader of these people, his people,
Yeah.
our people.
Our people. So and I was
Yeah.
just like, maybe that might have been part of Brigham Young's problem, is he could be a governor or he could be the prophet. And sometimes it's like, what was he doing? Was he Governor Young when he said or did that, or was he President Young?
Yeah, it's the definition of a conflict of interest for sure. So what are the exact sort of indictments they're bringing upon? I mean, there's a lot you could do against Brigham Young. Probably blacks in the priesthood. Am I correct in
That'd be number one, especially
one
in this
in
day
this
and
climate? Yeah, fair enough.
age. Just his treatment of, because there's like a statue of him in Salt Lake where it's like he's kind of elevated and almost looks like the local, Ute. Is that how you pronounce it? Utes, Indian natives,
Right.
First Peoples
Uh-huh.
are like kind of holding up the base of his statue. And it is kind of like, why did they design it like that? Where they're kind of like, hey, look, here's the First Nations people, of
Crushed
this area.
under the foot of
Yeah.
Brigham Young.
And they're underneath Governor Young.
That is
kind of a questionable
strange.
monument.
Here's the thing, though. The state of Utah would not exist without Brigham Young.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't exist.
The territory, his like defense, and his
as it stands
and
today.
his finagling with the railroad.
Yeah.
As depicted in AMC's
Hell on Wheels.
Hell on Wheels.
I gotta watch that. Is it still up?
Yeah,
Netflix?
it's on Netflix.
I gotta watch it.
He's like main cast in seasons 4 and 5 or something. Main antagonist of the show. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I get it. Listen, people were racist. I would go as far as to say that everyone on the planet Earth is on the racist spectrum. We're all racist in some degree or another, some more than others.
Right.
But everyone it's hardwired into our makeup, our just the human DNA. We're designed to give a premium to things that are more familiar to us and to be afraid of things that are different from us. And that goes back to like, that's every animal on planet Earth. That's like a survival mechanism that's baked into our DNA. Yeah. And as we improve and we overcome our natural selves over time, we're learning to we're like, oh, I get like the color of our skin doesn't matter at all.
Well, that's where you get into trouble there, Troy.
What do you mean?
Because you're just like, I can't wait to live in this post-race utopia. But if that's like what you believe and what you want,
you're a friggin' heretic.
You're like, that's like racist.
Is it? Why? Well, I get that, like,
it's hard.
It's
like, well,
isn't that what Martin Luther King, the content of your character, not the color of your skin. That
is not even like what they want.
That's
anymore.
MLK, baby.
It's like thinking, because I remember like they complained about Trump's speech at Mount Rushmore he gave recently. They're like, it was a dark speech. But he honestly just like kind of believes in like a post-race kind of world. Where like this idea that like race doesn't matter, but people that are like the anti-racists, and this is where they're kind of, the pendulum is, I think, swinging too far.
Yeah.
And I've had to question, it's like, well, what do I believe about race?
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, race very much matters, because they're like, oh, what you think is like the standard culture. And it's crazy. Like I saw a post about, it's like the National American Museum of African American something, where they're like, the scientific method is whiteness. And they're trying to explain what whiteness is.
Oh, right.
And it's like, a lot of these things I think are pretty universal, and you shouldn't attribute it to whiteness necessarily.
Like the scientific method and they're trying to tear it down.
Like rationality. They're like, oh, that's just white European colonialism or something. And I'm like, well, I don't know if we should.
That's like Greeks. That's like the Greek. It's like the.
Yeah.
Or the Italians, or like the scientific method, or the the Da Vinci's of the world.
Well, like even the Arabs,
just
like
logic. The Arabs.
System.
Yeah, these are not associated with a particular culture or race. It's just like these are the facts. It's just how the world is.
Yeah. So I know on Twitter they were like confused. They're like, this almost sounds like a white supremacist rant. Because they're kind of like talking about things that a lot of people would consider are good, and they're attributing it to whiteness.
No.
And it's like, no, those are just
my gosh.
I was like, those are just like nice human achievements. They don't like belong to any race necessarily.
No.
And so yeah, like this idea that it's like you want to judge a person based on the contents of their soul. It's like this post-race dream, but it's like apparently it's a dream we can't live.
Well, it's not like we're not trying to erase the fact that people are different races. It's like we're trying to get to a point where there is no judgment of a person. I mean, Sam Harris, look him up, good guy, ardent atheist, but smart guy. His whole thing is like, what if it was like hair color? What if like I didn't like you because you were like blonde, or
I think it's just kind of
Like it shouldn't matter it should be as much of a matter as like the color of your hair or your eyes. And it really is that arbitrary.
I think they want like some more like affirmative action kind of thing to a sense. I'm not sure what exactly they want, but it's like if you're a visible minority, if you're like a Aboriginal person in this country, you can't say that race doesn't matter. You have to like treat them like their race, which is like racist.
What? That's the most racist thing.
But I mean, but in a sense, it's like you have to realize that they're like underprivileged, and so you have to treat them better.
True.
I'm not sure. It's confusing for me, who just wants to live in a beautiful post-race world.
I think I agree with that. You have to,
because it's like you have to acknowledge.
You have to acknowledge this sort of.
It's like, oh, this person is a visible minority. Maybe they grew up on a reservation.
That they deal with
their
issues
life is
that we
different
don't deal
than their
with.
life experience is different than
Sure,
mine.
and that's fine. I'm okay with acknowledging that.
Well, it's a fine line.
What's on either side of the line?
Where you become too obsessed with race.
Right. Yeah. True.
But also still acknowledging that race is real and that it affects people's lives.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. There is something to...
So it's like, the idea, it's like, well, you need to treat people of different races differently. But then I'm just like, do you?
Yeah, that's something I think you have to acknowledge that everyone around you has different
and these are the posts I see because black people are like, our experience is different than a white person's. And I'm like, okay, I agree. And now it's like, so now I have to act differently.
But the reason it's different is because people who are racist treated you differently because of your skin.
Well, and that's Morgan Freeman right there.
In a negative way.
Morgan Freeman's like, you know how you cure racism? He's like, stop talking about race.
The thing, I just watched this movie Green Book. I know it kind of got some flack in probably from these kind of people who are obsessed with like, how dare you think that like a white guy and a black guy can solve racism with their friendship? But like, it's not about that. The movie, it's a good movie. I recommend it. Green Book.
Is that the one with Vigo and
Mahershala Ali? Great performances from honestly everyone, but great movie. It's not about solving racism. It's just like about two guys who became friends and maybe overcame their own racism or their own, because at the beginning of the movie, it's like Vigo obviously is a bit of a racist. And by the end, they said these two guys in real life were friends till they died within 6 months of each other in 2013. So that, I don't know. I think it's like, I forget the point I was trying to make there, but other than just, it's not about, I think I was going to say like in that movie, there's this sort of pivotal scene where, and it is shocking to see it now. It's like, oh my gosh, they were really, really racist back then. It was like the 50s, I think. But Mahershala Ali is like this world kind of renowned piano player, and he's touring the South, giving performances, and he's going to give a performance in this dining room on like Christmas Eve or whatever, but he's not allowed to eat in the dining room. He's going to perform, can't eat in the dining room.
Yeah, they still had Jim Crow going on then.
Yeah, so it's like, why? So they treated him, that's like a classic case of like him being treated differently because of the color of his skin. That's the Jim Crow laws. That's what those are, is that black people were treated differently because of the color of their skin alone, like that, which is crazy. And the fact that people want that, I guess, again?
But in reverse.
In reverse, okay. Well,
I don't know what that looks like necessarily. I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm sort of...
Is that literally called reverse racism? That was called reverse racism.
I think that's called affirmative action. Reverse racism is when you're racist to white people?
No, it's when you're like super nice to Dave Chappelle. It was in a movie, and he's like, I forget the movie, but anyway, Dave Chappelle in the movie was like, he worked at the airport, and he's like, I can't believe this. This is reverse racism. He's like, what are you talking about? Look at this. He's at the airport. He's like, takes a drag on his cigarette, like blows it in white people's faces as they pass. They're just like, ha ha, thank you. And just like walk by. He's like, see that? Reverse racism. They should yell at me for that.
Oh, Dave Chappelle.
It's a
the only voice of reason in this day and age.
It's a complicated thing. Did you watch his 846?
I did.
Special? What'd you think of that? Not really a comedy special.
No, it was not. It was just something he felt like he needed to say.
Yeah.
And he said it.
The lesson or the valuable thing that I took from it was, I mean, there was some talk about like, and this always gets brought up, right? Whenever a black guy dies, at the hands of the police, usually there's some conversation about like, well, he was like, trying to counterfeit money, or he was, this guy was a criminal in some way.
Well, that's no reason to shoot someone.
Well, exactly. And that's what he says. Dave Chappelle says, he's just like, he just emphatically is like, I don't care what they did. And that really like struck me. It's like, he's right. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they were doing. You're right. Like it's no reason to kneel on someone's neck or to shoot them or to remove their right to justice, to the justice system, which has its own problems. But at least like when you kill someone, you're robbing them of their due process.
Yeah, it's like they always talked about like they named like all these white shooters or even like that kind of deranged ex-soldier that stormed the prime minister's house. And they're like, the fact that the police didn't shoot him is white privilege. And I'm like, guys, no, that's how what happened to them is just what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And it's not like a privilege to not get shot by the police. That's just what's supposed to happen. So it's like, they're like, oh, they didn't get shot because they're white. Well, no, like it's like the fact that someone gets shot or has, their airways blocked for being black is an injustice that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
But it doesn't help to be like, oh, the guy that shot up that black church was peacefully arrested by the police. What a shame. It's like, no, that's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah. And here's the thing. And I don't know. I think we're in a sober enough mood to actually talk about this in a productive way. I think the issue before in our last conversation was that we were a little too slap happy, we were a little too jokey. I think we can probably talk about this in a safe way. The statistics around police shootings in the United States, the picture that it paints is that it's not quite as bad as it looks just on the face of it, or maybe as how, like, I think the statistics are like white people are more likely to be shot and killed by the police, or like in a confrontation with the police, white people are more likely to die, even on like a percentage basis of like population. I could be wrong.
What I saw,
please correct me.
I know that police kill more white people in America, just because there's more white people, but it's like the black people have more interactions with police, which is probably more a result of their socioeconomic situation.
Yeah.
Which, you could address that because it's like black people just have more interactions with police, which is why they get shot more often. Not as much as white people, just because, 75% of the population in America is white or something like that. But, they're trying to say, like, it's rates and percentages. So it's like police shoot black people at a higher rate only because they have more interactions with them. But of police shootings, I'm not sure. I've looked at all the numbers and the statistics, hoping that it would set everything straight.
Yeah.
And the only thing it seemed to set was like there's a socioeconomic problem in America for black people.
Yeah. There's a good podcast by Sam Harris. I forget what maybe I'll look it up as we're talking here, but it's a good sort of overview of, and sort of, and I know that he's like a white guy, and he addresses all of his like inherent bias and sort of like the probably just the flat out rejection of the fact that he's saying it, is that like, and basically what he does is he goes through all of the data, all of the numbers, the statistics, and the picture that it paints essentially is that yes, there is a problem with police in the United States and sort of the militarization of them, and yes, people do get killed, and black people do get killed, and so do white people, and basically what you're saying is, yeah, it is like it's a socioeconomic thing, and the thing is that the majority of black folks in America find themselves in sort of lower socioeconomic situations, and so therefore find themselves in more interactions with police, and therefore more shootings, like you said. I don't know all the nuance of it, and forgive me if I misspeak or misquote the numbers or the whatever, but I think it's I think largely it is like I don't even know if I can diagnose the problem. I don't really know exactly what the problem is, other than just like, I don't know, better training. I don't think defund the police is the answer. It's probably like give more money to give better training, get better people. I don't know.
Yeah, I think defund the police was kind of like this. I think what they're trying to say is refund, the police, change the funding around.
No, that's not what there's. Some people are literally trying to get rid of police in there.
Yeah, I mean, they did that in Seattle for a little while. That didn't work out very well.
Minneapolis, I think they had,
I know there's been like a few cities that have talked about like they've severely reduced their police budget. And we'll see like what happens, but
I mean, this whole Seattle, the Chaz thing, I think it's fair to say that you need police. You need you need some form of police. And unfortunately, whatever you call it, you got to have enforcement of the law. Because if you don't, a power vacuum is created and anarchy reigns.
The thing I heard, they're like, it's like community outreach officers.
Yeah, I do like the idea of like sort of separating exactly what it is that...
Like I would say demilitarize the police.
Yeah.
That comes in because we've basically been talking about America's problems.
Yeah.
Because if you want to get into like the most broken police force in the world, the RCMP, they like, oh my gosh. I just read the McLean's article about like the RCMP is broken. And it's like...
I don't know anything about this. You have to educate.
Well, so like it goes, they're so ill-trained. Like they just performed so poorly in like the Nova Scotia incident.
Yeah.
And it's like there's people that died and they're like, if the police would have told us there was an active shooter, we wouldn't have left the house and they wouldn't have been shot. And like all the conspiracy about like was the shooter he was known to police. He might have been an informant for the police.
Yeah.
They won't say yes or no.
Ugh.
They just won't say about that.
Yeah.
Like these police officers met him alone and get overpowered. And like the Mayerthorpe shooting where it's like one guy with a rifle and the police, if the RCMP, they might have like an AR-15 in their patrol car. They might. Mm-hmm. And if they do, they've never been trained to use it. Oh, and so like one guy, and I hated the article. They're like, one guy with an assault rifle takes out 5 police officers. That guy didn't even have an assault rifle. He just had a semi-automatic rifle in like a good position. And the police officers have no idea how to like...
Tactical training.
Yeah, like they had no tactical idea of how to deal with a shooter in a elevated position. They were just... And it was like... What? They lost their lives from a lack of training. So it's like police in America are like really militarized. Like they all like are, if they're going to go like issue a warrant, they have AR-15s out.
Yeah.
But it's like the RCMP, even if they had a AR-15 in their patrol car, they've never like used it.
Yeah.
They don't know how to use it. They don't know how to deal with a shooting, like a shooter. They just like haven't been trained, and they're just spread so thin.
Yeah.
And the RCMP just like want to like cover this up, and like RCMP accounting, they talk about if they say like there's this many officers in an area, it's a lie.
Yeah.
They're like, this many officers are assigned to this station, but this one's actually on vacation, or this one's actually on loan to another. It's just like the RCMP is so messed up.
Huh. That's something I knew sort of just by instinct maybe, or like I could have guessed that. I always kind of just assume it's same with our military, right? Like the budget for our military is so embarrassingly small that like, I mean, we basically just piggyback off of the United States. Like they're our big bro, and they sort of do all the fighting, not all the fighting for us. I know that there's a lot of dedicated soldiers in the Canadian military, but in terms of like funding and training and equipment,
yeah, like all of our like broken subs and stuff.
Yeah, like we're in no position to provide any sort of tactical support on a meaningful scale in any sort of conflict, apparently even at our police level too.
Well, I can't speak for the Canadian military.
I'm sure I can't really either.
I'm sure they're well trained. I know they're like under equipped, but I assume they're fairly well trained.
Well,
I know our special forces are like world renowned or something.
Yeah, I think one of the best snipers in the world was a Canadian military sniper or something.
But yeah, like so the RCMP is like a broken police force, but no one wants to admit it. Especially the RCMP,
especially the police, man.
Well, and it's because where do they go? They have to go to like rural towns, and they contract themselves out, and it's like towns don't have a choice because the RCMP is subsidized by the federal government.
Yeah.
So if it's like, okay, we could hire a police force or like make our own rural police force, it's like, well, it's going to be 30% cheaper just to contract the RCMP to police our town. And I grew up in a town with an RCMP unit. And so it's like, it's like rural Canada is like, I guess we just have to use the RCMP.
And they work most of the time, right? It's just like when you get an active shooter, like, and that's like, listen, an active shooter, it's a hard situation to deal with in the best scenario, I imagine, like it's not exactly a thing. Is it a situation where we kind of have to cut them a little bit of slack? It's like, even if you have like training all the time, once you get to the real thing, of course, I guess the whole point of training is that like you're simulating the real thing to the point that when the time arrives, it's like you've done this a million times. You know exactly what to do.
Well, and there's that video of police officers tackling that, chief in Fort McMurray, and the like police, the RCMP person was like, they didn't use excessive force. They like targeted this guy. His like plates were expired because his truck was impounded.
Yeah.
And he goes to pick it up and drive it home, and then they pull him over because they knew his plates are expired because they've had his truck impounded. And then he gets up and he's mad about being like profiled by the Mounties. They like tackle him and beat the crap out of him. And the like response is just like, that was not excessive force. And then they ask like the RCMP chief if there's systemic racism in the Mounties. And she's just like, no, I don't think so. And then like the liberal government was just like, you need to re-answer that question. She's like, yes.
Try again.
Yeah. She's like, oh yeah, there is a systemic racism.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah.
And then they're like, could you give us an example? And she's like, no. I can't think of one.
Not off the top
I know
of my
that
head.
I know that I was told to answer yes, but I can't think of it right now.
Let me go ask the government if they have a good answer to this question. Yeah.
So policing. It's a real sticky situation.
It is a sticky situation. I don't have the answers. I mean, who does? I think like this is something I heard recently, is that, so like the Chaz, the Seattle, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone fell apart,
Had quite the murder rate.
High murder rate. The first thing they do, they build a wall. They claimed they stole the territory from its previous owner. So it's like all of the things that like, sort of a sweet liberal group might sort of fight against, they did all the things that you do. It's like, all it proved was that, like, yeah, it's hard to run an organization of people. It's hard to be in a society. It's just a difficult thing.
And if you like read their like council notes or whatever, where they're like, someone has to give up their seat to a person of color. Someone needs to give up their seat we need someone that's served time in jail, a criminal. We need criminal representation. It's like the women are uncomfortable that the criminal representation was a sex offender. They don't feel comfortable with a male sex offender
I love it.
on the council.
That's what happens when you have this like sliding scale of like morality and right and wrong.
And it's just, where it's just like,
You
we
know.
don't judge anyone.
Except if
and
you're...
we don't value or make normative statements to anything.
Nothing is right. Nothing is wrong. All is permitted, except for like when you're, you know...
But it's like...
Except when like one particular person is going to be highlighted, and then it's like... That's the thing, right? It's like...
We're going to put marginalized people in power...
And all these marginalized
people. And then the
people...
other marginalized people are going to feel marginalized by the marginalized people.
You nailed it on the head. That's exactly it. That's exactly the issue. It's like... that's like the perfect example of that. The criminal representation. The women are uncomfortable by the criminal representation in the council. That's so funny. Yeah, I don't know. I have no answers. Do you think, I feel like we navigated some minefields a little more elegantly this time. Hopefully I don't think we would need to, I don't feel uncomfortable about anything besides naming Tom Hanks, you know, and all those co-conspirators. I kind of fear for my life at this point.
Well, the Twitter and the Reddit people that did it first are the ones that are...
True. And besides, I'm just a goofball. I'm a jokester. I'm not trying, you know, I don't know anything.
And we love Toy Story.
I do love Toy Story.
Don't come after us.
And hey, listen, these are all just like, I was talking to another friend about this. He's like, okay, how sure are you of like the Tom Hanks thing? And I was like, not enough to like stake any real thing on it. It's just, it's the facts are the facts that we have, or the allegations are what we have. And so it's like, I don't know. I'm not that convinced. Like enough to stop watching Saving Private Ryan. Nah, it's a good movie, and I'm willing to bet that he was, you know, that was before he got into the nefarious stuff. Maybe if that is even a thing, if he even is, maybe he's just simply vacationing in Greece. I don't know.
Is Colin wrapped up in this?
I don't.
What about Chad?
Definitely Chad. I don't know. Chet.
Chet, that's his name.
I don't know about Chet. Definitely. Colin, no.
Not Colin.
Not Colin. Not
Heaven
Colin.
forbid.
Heavens forbids. Anyway, I think we're about there. We're
Did we say all the things we need to say?
rolling up on 2 hours.
Oh, we didn't talk about the other woman.
That's right. Oh my gosh. You're experimenting.
I was on another podcast.
You're on another podcast. So this is like a recurring podcast you're on now.
I'm actually not sure exactly. Here's what I'll tell you. It's Bubble Ball.
Yeah.
I think Josh Langstaff. He's the producer.
Yeah.
I call him the host. I think he wanted me to be the host.
You sound like the host when you're on. I listened to the first bit of it. You, like I said to you, your 10,000 hours of podcasting really show on that podcast. The other two guys, you're going to get there. You're going to get there for sure.
No one gets it on their first try. Just look at us.
Just look at us. But I mean, like, I'm listening to Lyndon. I'm like, man, this guy knows how to talk. This guy knows how to vamp. He knows how to fill space.
This guy is talky. Yeah, so I mean, I Josh Langstaff is definitely the producer.
And the host.
True and faithful of our guest of our podcast,
Yeah,
one-time guest.
He's got his own show on.
So he's making Bubble Ball about the NBA.
Yeah.
So he had me on to talk about it, and I think I think he might have another episode out tomorrow. It was on
With you, like, is it?
No, he's having some other guests.
Okay.
I was invited to potentially come on, be the host. I declined the hosting position.
Why is that?
I'm not ready for that kind of responsibility.
Right.
I'm just the junior companion on this podcast.
I think you're ready to jump up to senior.
Could I be the district leader
Yeah.
on another podcast?
Here's what you do need to tell him, though. And Josh, if you're listening, you got to ask all of your guests to speak like right into the microphone.
Like, this is my rule. Is we just have like, what do you call these? Wind?
These are pop filters.
This is a pop filter.
Yeah, on the mics.
Josh was doubling up. He had like the little circular ones and these things.
Yeah.
I was like, that there will be notes.
Yeah.
You won't hear any of that on this. But where was I going with that?
Just, I don't know, about talking into the mic a little closer. That's what I
Right.
was
My
talking
rule of
about.
thumb is if my mustache doesn't brush up against the filter once every other sentence, I know I'm not close enough.
Yeah.
You got to be right up in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if your lip's not getting scratched by this foam every once in a while,
If you're not hearing some of that.
you got to get closer.
Yeah, I just noticed that Caleb and Josh, it sounded like they were like sitting back from it like this, and you were like right up on it. So I was like, he knows. He's got to be close. I thought you were the only one with like an actual mic, and they were just sort of
Like around me.
put an iPhone on a table, and we were just sort of talking around it. Might have sounded better. I don't want to smash on it, but it's the audio. Got to talk closer to the mic, guys. That's just how she blows.
I know he was complaining about his mixer.
Okay.
He was having
Maybe
problems
it's a
with his mixer. And if it just so happens the only sound levels he got right was my mic, I have no problems. You can only get one. Please make it mine.
Make it mine.
So yeah, check that out. I mean, I'm not sure I'm not sure about anything technical on podcasts. Look for it wherever you find podcasts, called Bubble Ball. Look at Josh Langstaff's Facebook profile. He's got a link on it there. So yeah, I made sure I promoted this podcast for sure anytime I could get. And I think Caleb was like, "Don't worry, Josh, you can just edit that out afterwards." And I was like, "He won't. I know enough about podcasts. You know that editing is the worst.
Editing is annoying."
And he can't go in and take out every time. I'm just like, this reminds me a lot about the Mission Stories podcast.
And you just like
Troy and I talk about whatever.
And you weave it into like every sentence, so it's hard to like cut around it. And you're sort of like, anyway, Michael Jordan, greatest of all time. I have a podcast. It's called Mission Stories. But is he the greatest? Yes.
The NBA bubble, it's a lot like going to zone conference on your mission. Do you guys remember any zone conference
As if we
from
still
Mission
talk about
Stories?
our missions.
Oh yeah, like it's like a zone. Mission Stories are great. Kind of like the podcast Mission Stories.
Isn't that right? Yeah. Dude, yeah, I was listening to our podcast, as I said, because I was cleansing it and listening through, and oh boy, I listened to the first episode. There was like a whole 5 to 10 minute chunk that I just was like, I just cut out because like we weren't like saying anything. We were just like, like it was just so unbearably. Like I kind of wanted to leave it in its original form, but we get a little. We talk a little flippantly about some serious subjects, and I don't know. I think it's for the best that.
I feel like in a late
it's a statue we want to tear down.
1 year later, we like address.
We do
that. Like everything that was said about that first episode ended up being like false.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So I mean, you know, it's fine if it's gone.
It is gone now. You cannot find it. I got rid of it. I also got rid of. Do you remember in Josh's episode we spend the first like. There's a good 10-minute chunk where we're talking about like, baby, it's cold outside.
Yeah.
And anyways,
and we took it too far.
We took it a little far, and I laughed way too hard at a joke, and I was just like, let's just get rid of that. So that's gone now. This is the only reference you will find to it. And it feels great. I'm like, ooh, okay. Honestly, the rest of, I think from then I I even mentioned, it was after that episode where after, yeah, because I give two things you shouldn't say, 2 words you ought not say in the Paula episode, now Paula Ferriante. And I remember my parents were like, you can't say that. I was like, oh no. It was like a white slur, like a
Right.
racial slur against white
I remember
people.
I'm trying to go back in my memory banks, and I'm like, Troy has said some questionable things, but specific words.
Yeah.
I do remember. I'm just like, Troy, you can't use racial slurs.
What if they're against white people? So anyway,
I
I took those out because it's like I don't, it's not worth it. It's not worth the trouble, and it's wrong, and you ought not to do it. So that's gone. And anyway, this is all in a big attempt that basically it's kind of just like employer safe proofing,
that is the day
That's
and
kind of
age we live
that's
in.
the big thing, right? Is just like if my employer were to listen to this, would they be upset?
Why would? Yeah, well, yeah, and then it's got scary because I just remember like during like a Zoom call for school, someone's like talking about it's like, what do you do to relax? Someone's like, meditation, journaling. I was like, podcasting. Someone's like, I can't wait to listen to your podcast, Lyndon. I'm like, this person might be my boss one day.
Yeah. I want to I made a Reddit profile for us, or a way to post. I think I want to start posting, cross posting, or I don't know, give it a shot.
Which subreddit would you go to first?
I don't know. I was kind of thinking like maybe we could post like depending on the subject matter,
Yeah, I feel like Andrew was like, just send it straight to ex-Mormon. They'll love it. And I was like, no.
Well, I did. I think
I've decided I think there are enemies.
We've always been pro.
Some ex-Mormon, anti-Mormon guy started following me on Twitter. I was like, that's odd. And I looked at his profile and I was like, I don't like this guy.
Yeah, I mean, like the blatant, sort of the harsh, blatant anti-Mormon stuff. I'm not a fan of that. If you have, obviously,
the dogmatic anti-Mormon stuff. We're not about that here.
We dwell in a light gray zone.
Slate gray.
Slate gray. Yeah, obviously questions are encouraged here, and we try to look for answers. But I don't know, the full-on anti-Mormon thing. I don't know. I get it. I totally get it. That's the thing. It's like I understand where they're coming from, but
it's like, if you have to take anything on faith, it's invalid.
I think you just sort of misunderstand.
Yeah, the people that make those kind of statements, it's like, okay,
you just haven't been through it enough. I think. Like, I really think that. Like I think we've all maybe been in that spot where it's like, I just go on facts alone. But when you realize how slippery, like, I don't know, I don't want to say how slippery facts are, but like how slippery reality.
Well, yeah, because it's
or what we think we know.
Well, people say that.
Maybe
I'm like, hey, everyone, look, we got another empirical materialist here.
Yeah.
Congratulations to them.
Yeah.
For adhering to one philosophical idea.
Yeah. When we realize.
And anyone else who isn't is an idiot, according to them. Oh, wait.
When we realize how little or the things we think we know, and then we get corrected. It's like our first episode, we talk about and it's gone now, our sort of
the whole first episode's gone?
Not the whole first episode, but our flippant discussion of that Bishop guy, the guy that was accused of molesting people.
Bishop,
yeah, whatever that guy's name was. And then apparently the girl who accused him was like this wholly unreliable. A year later, we find out the woman who accused is this
just a big lie.
This proven liar. This, her lawyers vacated her position, which is sort of like code for we have no case. She has no case. Like she's lying, kind of a thing. So that's, I don't know, it's a good example. And then it's like, even in the scientific context, like there's so much they don't know. Like science has an edge. There's an edge of science. And a lot of people don't like to, there's like this thing I was reading about where it's like a lot of, the atheist scientists a lot of scientists, they don't like to, like back in the old day, they used to have this thing where it's a gap for God. It's like a gap where it's like it's a thing in science we don't understand, and maybe this is where God can dwell. And a lot of scientists, they're like, we don't want that. Nevertheless, these gaps persist, right? There's gaps in our knowledge of how things work. particularly in like a quantum realm. Like there's a lot of stuff we don't know about quantum physics, and like when atoms get small enough, all of the rules that typically apply stop applying somehow, and it becomes this very sort of random sort of thing, or at least a thing we don't quite understand. And so I don't know. I just think it's like an interesting, like we can't really say we know all the things. It's like leave yourself a gap for God. Leave yourself some room for God. Like don't like. How do you know? How does?
I think they're trying to say, if you want any sort of truth or answers, you should get it from science or empirical materialism, only things that can be proven.
Sure.
And so, like, faith does not exist in that arena. But like you said, it's like knowing the gravitational constant of Earth does not give you a meaning for your life.
Yeah.
And, like, there has to be room for some metaphysics and things like that.
Give yourself some room for some metaphysics, some mysticism. I don't know.
So it's me. I love my middle ground. So when people take hardline stances in one direction or the other, I'm like, get out of here.
Get out of here. Live in the middle. So anyway,
be lukewarm like me.
If you found this via ex-Mormon Reddit, hi.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. If you found this via Latter-day Saints, hi. Welcome to the show. I feel like
I don't even know I feel bad. I'm not subscribed to any of those subreddits.
There's a Mormons
I
one.
heard there was
There's
like a LDS one, and that secretly became like an evil one. It was just like too hard to keep up with. There's no official subreddit of the church.
There isn't. So you got all these sort of different ones, and they're all for different ideas and ideologies. And anyway, so
but, you might start finding the podcast on there.
I think you will. We're up. We've been talking for 2 hours, Lyndon. I think. I don't know. I guess should we go for a third? We're covering a lot of,
Where's your magic notebook?
Here we go.
Because I was also wondering, I love the emails. So yeah, that was the other thing. Because I'm
no emails,
wearing my contacts,
right?
And I'm a candidate for LASIK.
Yeah.
True and faithful. Have you had LASIK? Please write into the show.
Yeah.
Or contact me personally. Was it worth it?
No, right into the show.
I mean, if you have my number, you can text me.
If you don't,
was it expensive?
403.
Did it ruin your life? Did it give you laser vision? I want all the answers.
Can you shoot a can off of a fence with your laser beam eyes?
Because I'm pretty accustomed to my glasses now. My glasses make me look distinguished and handsome.
You should just get some that have like no prescription in them afterwards. Because it is kind of it is in the artwork. So it's like, I don't want to change that.
I don't want to have to redraw a picture with you without glasses because you get laser eye surgery.
Yeah.
Just because I'm sick of fogging up my glasses because of COVID.
Hey, be a man. Take it like a man. Take the fog like a man, I say. There's really nothing else I think we covered, honestly, everything on my little list, plus a little bit extra. We talked about some hot button racial issues and the police, and I didn't expect that, and that was...
I expected it. I knew we couldn't stay away.
Should we talk about...
We talked about Bubble Ball.
Should we talk about...
You didn't talk about your feelings. I'm sick of J.K. Rowling.
Okay, screw her. Okay, what feelings?
Your feelings about me being on another podcast.
Oh,
I had to get your permission first.
No, I think it's.
I wouldn't dare.
You can do what you want. Listen, I think it's like bands. It's like you have Tool, the band Tool, but the members of Tool are all members of other bands too. But that doesn't take away from Tool being one of the greatest rock bands, progressive metal rock bands of all time.
What other bands were they in?
I forget, but that's the point, right? It's like, who cares about these other bands?
They weren't important.
Troy and Lyndon, 100 years.
100 years, Troy and
Lyndon. Yeah, I got a friend, my friend Nick. He's kind of itching to start a podcast. So I'm like, guess we're doing that or giving that a shot, maybe, or who knows? I don't even know. See, the thing is,
what would you and Nick even talk about?
I don't know.
You guys don't even have a rapport like you and I.
I am curious about. I think one of our strengths is a rapport. I know that. I mean, like Nick is one of the funniest people I know. But I don't. We'll have to test it out. We'll have to see if we have a podcast rapport. Our problem, he and I, is that we're so like similar in a lot of ways. Like we often play the same like side of a thing. Whereas I think
you'd be doubling down.
Yeah, we're like a good mixture. We trade off being the straight man versus the wacky man.
I forgot about the last thing that someone wanted to know. How did we become friends?
Ooh.
I had to like rethink and tell this story, and I wasn't sure if I was fabricating memories.
Well, here's what do you want to go first or should I go first?
Here's what I remember.
Okay.
You can fill it in. We both went to a party, YSA party.
Yeah.
I was aware of you being, 6'4" CEO height. You were like the king of the South, king of South Calgary. You were the most popular dude in South Calgary YSA.
Is that true?
I'm just saying
that's your perception.
That was my perception.
I don't think it was true, but I'm flattered by it.
And there was a party in the north.
Yeah.
And you were there.
Yeah.
And what I remember is I was just cracking wise, as I'm wont to do.
Uh-huh.
And you were like, guys, have you seen this guy? You're like, this guy's funny. Do you guys know how funny this guy is?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, what are you talking about, Troy? It's just Lyndon. No one really likes him. And you're like, no, this guy's funny.
Yeah.
And then and I was like, this guy thinks I'm funny. I was like, so this guy is smart.
Yeah.
And so I remember that's kind of like how we met.
Yeah.
But that's not like how we became friends, because like Jasmine's like, at what point did you guys share phone numbers? When did Troy enter your contacts list? And I was like, it wasn't that night.
That's a good question.
Or was it?
Like, when did we become close friends? That's the part that I don't.
Because that's our like first meeting.
I
story.
remember our meet cute, if you will. Yeah, I remember you were like funny, and I love. Just the things you were saying, I was just like, this guy's on my wavelength. This guy's making me laugh. This guy's giving me the yucks. And I was just like, I respected that. I had like a respect for you and your sense of humor. So that's how we met. The way that I remember you had maybe we won't talk about that on the podcast, but you had I feel like the first time I like ever interacted with you, and this is before that time, was the preference date that you had.
Well, was that before? I thought that was after.
Was it?
I thought it was
before, because I don't know.
It's hard to say.
Let's not talk about that anymore.
Those who know about that, they know about it. I wasn't sure if that was before or after.
It's a dark time. Just kidding. It was a great time.
It was a weird time, that's for sure.
Weird time. Who knows? I don't know.
But yeah. So then my memory after our meet cute is I assume that...
Like, where did you live? You lived in the basement.
I lived somewhere at the Nagplex.
You were on the other side of the Nagplex.
I might have been... Back then, I might have been living with Mo, for all we know.
When was that? 2013? 2013 or 2012?
I think it was...
So we were both working at Green Drop. That was a common connection, I think.
You worked at like the South office or something.
Which was 2013.
I think it was...
I
feel like it was 2012 or 2013.
And then...
These are details.
Like, when did we...
So that's the thing. So we have our meet cute, and then I feel like just after that, every YSA activity, we would just like slowly gravitate towards each
how
other.
do men ever become friends? It's a mystery to me. Like,
well, I have like a clear explanation for like Jeff Red.
Okay.
That's like a story. You'd be like, oh yeah, so then like this happened. We didn't have a meet cute. We had like a meet fierce, where our first impression of each other was like, that guy is a huge dick.
Right.
And then we were in like the same calculus class, and then we took calculus together and became friends.
Right.
But then it's just like we had I just assume, I was like, so then did we just like slowly go to the same YSA activities and just be like, doot, 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 slowly but surely be like, oh, look, there's Troy.
Yeah, I think we
now
probably
I'm talking
just
with Troy again.
we just found ourselves in the same groups. I imagine we went to Denny's and we were in the same groups of people, I think, too. And then that sort of over time whittled into.
Because then it's like eventually.
I think we went to dances together. It's like, hey, you go into this thing, let's go together. That started happening at some point. I don't remember.
I do remember at one point it was like if there was something going on in the South, I would just drive to your house first and then go with you to an activity.
Yeah.
I'm like, when did that happen?
That was full-blown friendship, though. I don't remember like.
That's like, I have your phone number.
Yeah.
When did we exchange phone numbers?
I don't
That's the
remember
question
that.
that Jasmine wanted answered.
And that I do not know. I kind of want to say something about like Jeff Red and my relationship. I feel like we were like
congratulations to Jeff Red, third baby.
Oh, congratulations, Jeff.
True and faithful member of the podcast.
Boy or girl?
Girl.
It's 3 girls now?
3 girls.
3 girls. Number 4, I'm thinking it's going to be a boy. Who knows? I will say this. I remember like we were like decent friends at some point, and then there was a point where it's like we weren't, and at the time I didn't really know why, and then I think you told me that he thought that I was like too silly or something like that, or he didn't like how I interacted with girls, or I was too weird. And I just want to say that if that's all the case, I completely understand, Jeff. I get it. Just
now you're going way back.
Even me listening to myself on the podcast like 2-3 years, like 2018. I was telling Lyndon this, that like I was just like I was so desperate to make stories where like I was just like I was annoyed myself, like listening to myself from like 3 years ago. It's like, man, I was annoying. Hopefully I continue on this trend of becoming less and less annoying to myself upon hearing myself in the future. But if that trend, if we trace it backwards in time
to like 5-6
years ago, and I remember I was at a dance once, and I was like, I don't know, I was a kooky guy, always trying to go for the laugh, always at the expense of like my reputation and character. I remember this girl was like, okay, you're at an 11, bring it down to 4. Like a girl said this to me, and I was like, it was sort of a moment of self-consciousness. Anyway, anyway, I just want to say, Jeff, I get it. I understand. No hard feelings. I wouldn't want to be friends with me either. Back to us. When did we exchange phone numbers? I really don't know. I really can't say.
Yeah,
I do not know.
I just don't know where it transitioned.
Mate, what about the films? I think the film stuff was
you
beginning.
Were like, hey, be in my film.
Mavericks.
I
think Mavericks, and we were always at the Institute. There was a lot of commingling happening there. And I think I just remember, enough times it happened where like you'd walk into the Institute and I'd like be there and I'd be like, Lyndon, like just happy to see ya. And I'd be like, here's a script I wrote. What do you think? I actually do remember the first time that happened. That was like the 2014.
When you wrote Mavericks?
Yeah, we wrote Mavericks together. I think Hopkins was...
he was there.
He was in on it too. I've never called him Hopkins before.
Hopkins?
I kind of like it.
T-Hops?
He's got the same last name as Anthony Hopkins. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I remember showing it to you and you're like... or whatever you're like. Yeah, that laugh. And then we made it. I think from then on, I think that was sort of a solidification of
we were in an acting troupe together at that point.
We were in an acting troupe. And then the first Mission Story sketch really cemented it. That's what kind of brought Theo into the full cementation of the group, and Michael, of course. and
Who we're not allowed to talk about.
we'll bleep that name. He does not wish to be spoken of on this podcast. He'll never hear this, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, so it's interesting to think of, like, when did we definitely has its roots in 2013, 2014. I think it came to fruition. By 2015, the love affair was in full swing. That's the gun going out to the famous trip out to HQ and the shooting of the guns and the fun Edmonton times.
This is the stuff people want to hear. They're like, how did you become friends?
Do they really want to hear this?
Yeah, I remember like we're driving around in the Toyota late one night talking about love.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me you loved me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And we won't say what happened next, but
and we continued to be friends.
Platonic friendship, yeah. It was just like, what is love? And it was like a realization where it's like, oh, maybe love isn't this thing that, like, maybe love isn't as like hyped up as we need it to be, you know?
I remember there was some talk, we were discussing a scripture, something about laying down your life.
Oh yeah, true love, yeah.
True love.
No greater love than man hath this, that he lay down his life for his friends. And isn't that the truth? That's like the truest love. I've been thinking about love a little bit lately. Now now it's love talk. It's going to be like a Joe Rogan podcast, like 3 hours.
We haven't done this in a while.
We're all pent up.
Now we're telling stories about when we learned that we loved each other.
Yeah, true love. Honestly, though, I think true love, everything up until, like love kicks in. I think love is based on like respect. Like I respect you. I respect your, like, I enjoy our interactions. I think it has to be like enjoying the interaction on a basic level, respecting the person, and then sacrifice comes in at some point.
A sacrifice or hypothetical sacrifices.
Yeah. Hypothetical.
Like I remember there was where I was just like, I would commit crime to help Troy if I had to.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was one of those late night Toyota conversations. It's like if we I don't know if we should even say this.
No, we shouldn't say it. That would have to be cleansed.
Yeah.
But it's just like I'd do that.
We'd help bury bodies for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that we have to, or we would.
Yeah.
But if
if push comes to shove.
And sometimes it does, okay? Let's be real. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. It really was kind of a heartwarming moment. I was like, wow, you would really like. And you had kind of like a plan and everything. Like, well, first we would do this. We'd have to do that. And I was like, man, he really would help me. Yeah, because I think I was like, would you call the cops? I don't remember what my answer was. I think I might have said, like, I don't know. I don't know if I was as ride or die as you. I think I was a little more cowardly. I think I was a little more like, I thought you were reaching for a knife for a second.
I was like, answer carefully.
Careful. Have to cleanse the stains on your rug after I kill you. Yeah. No, it's true. Listen, Lyndon, it's been a whirlwind friendship.
Yeah.
You know what I like about it? Very low maintenance. Very low maintenance. Love that. All of my truest and best friendships are very low maintenance. And this is certainly a hallmark of this friendship for sure. Like, is there any time where it's just been like, I don't know, like, oh, yo, he's asking too much of me? And if so, please tell me. And I think this is the time to say it.
I'm trying to like imagine and exaggerate a situation, but it's impossible.
The only time I remember, I don't know if I've ever like told you this before. The only time I remember being like and this has less to do with you and more to do with like the other person involved. But I remember we were recording a podcast, and my girlfriend at the time was there while we were doing it. And then when we were done, she just like, and I don't know if she was doing this on purpose, and it's because I was like sort of preoccupied as I tend to be after a podcast with like the little technical matters of the thing. But she like went and sat with you and it started like flirting with you, it seemed. And you can't help but flirt back because that's just who you are.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I just like, my blood started boiling. and it's just rough because when you get. Were you
mad at me?
Yeah, I was mad. I was mad at you. I was mad at her. This happened to my friend Nick too. My friend Nick like flirted with Sarah Hartwick in high school when I was like in love with her, and I was ready to slit his throat too at that time. But I was like, I don't know. There's just something about it. There's something like, I'm just like a jealous person. It's just who I am. I was like jealous of both of you. Like it's like, that's my friend. That's my girlfriend. Stop talking to each other.
Yeah, you were ignoring us.
Yeah. So anyway, and then you wouldn't leave. It's not that you wouldn't. Maybe I was just more sensitive. You kind of like lingered about the usual time you linger post podcast, but like I was just angry at the time, or like the venom had dripped into my blood, and so I just like couldn't. I was like, and she was being friggin' annoying, and like I was just like, like I just want both of you to leave. But she was like, it's like she couldn't leave.
Wait, did you want her to leave with me?
I don't know what I wanted. Anyway, that was literally the only time where I've been like,
you're like, I'm done with this guy.
Cross with you. And I remember, this is such like an innermost detail, but like I remember like, I mean, at the best of times, this door can slam without realizing it. But like, I kind of like, when you left, the door shut really hard. And even like it was a little bit of the venom releasing, but also I was like, that was too hard. Like, I don't want him to like, it's like, blowing up the door, hit your butt on the way out.
No,
So anyway.
Didn't even notice.
So now, it probably sounds the same every time it closes. But now every time, since then, I've been like, I gotta slam the door really hard, just so he's like, this is what he does.
This is how the door closes. I thought you were gonna say, now you're so careful about closing the door as to not offend me.
Just whenever you leave, I'm like, bye. So now I can start closing the door more softly.
Now that you finally confessed.
I finally confessed, yeah. Yeah, honestly, and it's such an embarrassing thing. Jealousy really is for me, it's like this embarrassing thing. I look back on that evening, and I'm so like, the way that I felt, I'm so embarrassed by that, by the feelings of embarrassment. And that's why I like to be detached and cold, because how can you be jealous when you feel nothing? Just kidding, but
interesting.
But it is like, I don't know, jealousy is like, you're like this person who does not feel jealousy. Am I correct?
That's pretty accurate. I suppose I can get the envies.
What would you say is like the difference there?
I think jealousy is when you're worried about someone taking or having something that's yours. Mm-hmm. Whereas envy is you wishing you had something that someone else had.
Oh, is that right?
I think so. Because when they say like God is a jealous God, he's worried about us being taken away from him or his attentions. Because it's like we belong to him and he doesn't want us to stray.
Right. So it's like jealousy is like a fear of a thing you have being taken away from you.
But envy is like... Or
the thing that you think is yours going somewhere else, or
So people often say, like, "Oh, I'm so jealous of her." What they mean to say is, "I'm envious of her."
Right. Okay. That's I've never.
Or him. Don't know why I had to gender that. It's 2020.
Z. I'm jealous. Jealous of Z. Zim. Zer.
Zay.
Zay. Of they. Yeah. That's. I honestly, I'm envious of that characteristic where I wish I. And to be honest, over the years, I think I have mellowed out. I've definitely in terms of my jealousy. Oh my gosh, when I was hey everyone, so there was a little break in the audio.
Just a little break.
Little technical issue.
The technical issue being that we stopped recording.
We stopped recording. Now we've started recording again. The thing I was going to say before was that I remember being 21 and being very jealous and whatever. It's fine. Whatever. Who cares?
We said it once already,
Who cares? I don't care.
Names were said. Personal details were leaked.
Yeah, personal details leaked. But I'm glad now that we have a chance to correct history now. And then we kind of just ended the episode, and I realized that that only one of our mics was recording, so we gotta.
Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
Which one was recording?
I guess only yours. So I guess it really wouldn't matter, except for all the parts
well, it would
where
have been a lot of blank space. Then me being like, "Hey, life's a mission."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Wait, what?
Huh?
I'm like, yeah, wrap it up."
Yeah, I got places to be.
Point is,
what's the point?
You're a jealous man. And, I think there's some healthy envy. Holy envy is a real thing.
Holy envy.
But jealousy, that's a part of you don't want to keep.
No.
And you're on a mission to expunge yourself of that jealousy.
I am.
Because just like our friendship, life's a mission.
Because it's so arduous and difficult.
Like life and its absurd pointlessness.
All right, bye.